Molly Carmel. It is I'm just like pinching myself right now. I'm so excited to be
Me
talking to
too.
you.
We're having the same moment.
Yeah. So for the audience, Molly Carmel is an LCSW. You're a leading addiction and eating disorder therapist and founder of Beacon by MC, which offers individual and group solutions to help people break free from their destructive relationships with food and dieting. Wow.
That's
So
me.
excited to be talking to you. But when I read your bio, I'm like, okay, you've been on the Today Show, Dr. Oz, Dateline NBC, Anderson Cooper, Extreme Makeover, as well as People Magazine, Los Angeles Times, New York Times. Oh my gosh.
I've been around the way,
You
I've
have.
been
You were
around the
even
way.
on Jillian Michaels'
Yeah, that's fun.
podcast.
I've been on that a couple of times. She's a great person to talk to about this kind of stuff. It's so funny, and that's not even how we know each other is through the food and weight space, right? Because then my other side habit is intensati is movements and mantra. Because many years ago,
Yeah,
as a therapist, I was like, I'm still a therapist, but I was like, God, this has so much more to do with our minds,
it
like,
totally does. It totally does. And I'm going to pour my water into a coffee cup so that
yeah,
people don't see me drinking out of my massive water bottle because sometimes
people
I
might
forget
see
when I'm
me
recording and
out
then
of
I'm
my
like,
massive water bottle. So
wow.
hydration.
So it was so exciting to meet you and 2 days in a row we got to experience your movement with music and mantras. And I know you told me what it's called, but can you just tell me again what that practice is called?
Or the practice is called intensati, and
Intensati.
the inten stands for intention, and the sati is it's all Sanskrit, is without judgment. And so with intention and without judgment, we do this spiritual fitness class effectively. And for like an hour, we stop thinking about the things we don't want to think about. And we teach our mind, our body, and our spirit the things we do want to be thinking about. And it's like nobody thinks like that, to think, oh, I actually have to be doing fitness for my spirit. And when we do the movement and the mantras, I am stronger than I think, I am braver than I seem, I am blessed with all I need. But while you're moving your body, like we can do that in a mirror, and no one's a
Sure.
bigger fan than me. But when you're moving your body, you cannot, it's very hard to dispute. I don't know about you.
Totally.
If I look in a mirror and I'm like, I am stronger than I think. And I'm not in the current, spiritual health that I'm in now. I mean, there is a committee that is going to sit and say, are you though? Are you sure? Because I don't think you, and what about yesterday? Right. But when you're moving your body and saying those mantras, and we were blessed to be in a group of people saying them with us,
Right.
the committee is so silenced out that it integrates. And while you're doing the movement, it integrates. It's one of my dearest friend, Patricia Moreno, created this practice. She passed away last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fortunate enough to be one of the people who holds her legacy. And it's a really amazing thing. And I brought it into my community because I have a community where people who really struggle in their relationship with food and relationship with body and relationship with self. I do also think there's a part of the exercise world that doesn't attend to people who have exercise drama and exercise trauma. And I really do. And I was in class with my friend and I was thinking, she's just jumping up and down and then telling me, well, it's okay, and if you can't do this, that's okay. And I had such a shame response to it. Like, and I'm almost willing to sacrifice myself to do the exercises like her. And I wanted to bring a part to movement and mantras that, like, I'm not jumping because that's not a loving thing for me to do. And if you want to, I'm actually doing the lowest common denominator. Although I do have friends that are paraplegic that come to my class, and I wanted to make it a little bit more all inclusive. I think fitness industry has never. I used to weigh 325 pounds, and
That's
so
crazy.
I everything I do and I create, I actually create for her because the treatment wasn't available that I needed when I was in that desperate, deathly space. And so I'm very cautious and thoughtful when I'm creating anything, even when I'm creating something that's of my friend.
Wow. Well, I know I shared this with you when I ran into you in the ladies'
Yeah.
room at
You
the
have to understand
conference.
we're besties from a bathroom, which I just love making friends out of.
Oh my gosh.
We're
And I
scheduling
told
a
you that.
podcast in a bathroom. It was fabulous. Isn't that the way life should be?
I just, hey, you know what?
I know. I was like,
If I
hey,
want
I love
something.
you. Can't wait to see you. Yeah.
So like day one, of course, we're all jazzed. It's the first day of the conference and you come out and start having us move and we're saying this. Day two, I'm tired. And I see you come out on stage and my first thought was like, oh, geez.
That girl again.
I'm like, we got to do this again.
Yeah.
And slowly, but by the time, I mean, it was like, thank you. Because I tell you what, it really just shifts your mindset.
Yep.
And I'm all about happiness and everything, but sometimes 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, I'm like,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
tell
I
you,
mean,
it
there's
is
never a
so
time where we
transformative.
can't be saying, I love myself. I
Yeah,
soften to fear. I lead with faith. I rise today. I don't know. It's never a bad time. Yeah. I even find myself, even that morning too, I was like, oh, I have to go on stage. but then, but then once I got out there, I was like, all right, playing the hand we're dealt. Let's go do this. And it was amazing. And y'all, if you
so
weren't there,
amazing.
we were all going, I rise today. I rise today. And it was like, I mean, it's incredible. You
And the
don't think
music's going.
about. Yep.
And then like that Worry Studios, I've been telling everybody that was such an incredible venue
Yeah.
because you could see the virtual audience and
Yeah.
everybody's on their feet and they're doing it at home. And oh my gosh, it was
Yeah.
what a way to set the day and set the tone for the day. And it was just incredible. I was so grateful for it,
Me too.
because
Me too.
yeah, yeah. So tell me about your story. I mean, I'm looking at your bio. And that's why I don't read the bios anymore because I want to hear it
I love that.
from
I never do any
person.
prep before my podcast. People are like, you don't? I was like, I really think you get like a lot gets ruined.
Yeah, yeah,
Overthinking things, I guess, right? That could be the chapter of my book. But so I'm one of those people who's like truly a wounded healer, right? And so I had a lot of early childhood trauma. I had a father who was deeply traumatized, and
yeah.
he fought in Vietnam 3 times and had a lot of
Oh,
impacted very deeply from that. And he ended up killing himself when I was 3 years old.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, he drove off a cliff. And then I had a mom who was about 25 years old, who was just ill-equipped. And I think in many ways, like I was sort of, I believe I was sort of born very sensitive. Like I was born without, emotional sunscreen. Like I was born extra. And so I only tell you all this because, you know, I think my relationship to something bigger than me, like this is really all about spirituality, in my
Yeah.
opinion. This is really all
Mhm.
about connection and spirituality. And that was really thwarted very early on for me, right? That was very,
Yeah.
and because when I found out my dad died and I had this really ill-equipped mother, I really my self-sufficiency started from the get-go. Like I was like 4 years old and I was like, really, I was not really interested in asking for help or receiving help because it was such a risky venture for me. My parent figures were not reliable. And the other thing that happened, which happens a lot of times when we become super self-sufficient, is that it makes us really tired and really apt to go and use synthetic means to heal ourselves. And by synthetic means, man-made things. And so I turned to food when I was like 4 years old. There are stories
Uh,
about me, and I know it even intuitively. I would go to my friend's house in kindergarten, first grade, Jen Corwin. She's still one of my best friends. And my mom, we weren't allowed to have any food in my house because I was a little bit of a compulsive overeater. I mean, traumatically compulsive overeater. But I'd go to Jen Corwin's house. That's where the M&Ms were. That's where the coffee. Everything really became about like the drug of sugar for me from
yeah.
a very early age.
Wow.
Luckily, I was super smart and I did really well in school. But my whole life was really transfixed in like depression, anxiety, and consumption of food. And when I was 7 years old, again, my mother was like outmatched. I'm obsessed with my mother. She's amazing. I think she just really did the best that she could. And at the time, there was really no
Yeah.
help. And at 7,
Yeah.
all the adults around were very worried about me and my food relationship. And so they put me in treatment with a nutritionist. And that started my addiction to dieting. at 7, right? And the idea that, my worth was somehow related to my weight. That's not what anybody intended. Again, nobody knew
Of
what to
course.
do at that time. And so you fast forward, I'm in my first Weight Watchers meeting at 11. I'm at Weight Watchers camps. When I'm at Weight Watchers camps at 13, having the time of my life, I get this note in my head where I know at Weight Watchers camps, I'm having the best time of my life, but I also know that I'm going to go home and gain all my weight back. And it's just the worst feeling I could feel inside. And that's what happened, by the way. Freshman year, I'm in Miss Pekovich's home ec class. I'm in my skinny jeans and the button pops off and my shame response just gets worsened and worsened. And so anyway, that summer at the Weight Watchers camp, I literally had this like spiritual experience where like I hear something and it says, it's your job to fix this, Molly. You're going to do this. Because the Weight Watchers camps, they didn't ask us how we were feeling. They didn't give us skill us up. I wasn't equipped. And so the journey of the wounded healer is, of course, it got much worse than that. I wish that's where the story stops, but I got very heavy, 325 pounds. I was in Ann Arbor, Michigan. My grandmother, who was the bravest person around, she was not scared of me in any way. She said, Carney Wilson had just had bariatric surgery. And my grandmother said, I was in graduate school for addictions and eating disorders work. And she said, I want you to have bariatric surgery. I was truly not wanting to live. And so I had very little decision-making will. So I was like, all right, fine, whatever. And when I was on the table, I was like, that's fine. I'll die. I don't really care. And bariatric surgery and Ozempic and everything in between, it's a medical solution for something that is largely, I think, a spiritual and emotional illness, although certainly biological. So I gained all that weight back while I was in eating disorders therapist. So you just want to know like some of the worst ways to live. It's like be an eating disorders therapist, very good at my job, binging my brains out at home. All these things happen. I start the first ever therapeutic boarding school for adolescent obesity. My career is taking off. So my externals look really good, except for I'm gaining weight hand over fist. And, but my insides are just falling apart like shattered glass. And my life feels like the size of a postage stamp, even though the externals are amazing. I'm living in New York City, whatever. It's amazing. And it's a horrible way to live. So I'm really gaining all this weight, which is a terrible reason to motivate to change, but I don't have a plan B. And I'm working for one of the greatest eating disorders doctors in the country. And I'm at her clinic and the drug rep brings blueberry muffins and I'm binging on the blueberry muffins in the break room. And I eat them so fast that I have to throw them up in the bathroom. And my boss walks in on me in the bathroom. And she writes me an email and she says, hey, can you get some help for this? And I write, oh, I just went down the wrong pathway. Don't even worry about it. And it's an emotional bottom I can't come back from. It's just this moment of grace. And I don't also like at that moment, like I don't have a plan B. Like I don't have a trust fund. I don't have anything. Like I'm going to lose my whole life. And so I started going to some 12-step meetings. That didn't help me with food, but it helped me with connection. And the opposite of addiction.
Yes.
Let's be honest, right? And so I was kind of like, okay, like these people are like me. It softened my heart. And then like slowly but surely, like the weirdest thing happened where my brother actually went on paleo and he started losing all this weight. And I was like, oh, well, if my brother can do that diet, I can do that diet. So I gave up sugar and flour. And the two crazy things happened. Number one, I went through an extreme detox and I was an addictions therapist. So I knew what a detox was. And I was like, this is weird. But the more important thing that happened for me, and this is my story, my biology, this is not for everybody,
right,
is that I also started to feel so much better emotionally, spiritually, physically. And I was running my own clinics at the time. And everybody was kind of like me because we were back in that like calorie counting, low fat era that is like toxic and terrible. And I changed my whole clinic into a food addiction clinic, a harm reduction food addiction clinic. And people started to get better. And then the longer I started doing that work, I saw even the deeper spiritual malady of food addiction, which is really, I'll be honest with you, sugar is addictive, whatever. It doesn't even matter because people are so addicted to dieting and diet culture and enoughness and perfectionism and molding all of those together that the work I really am doing now is about that. It's about breaking that addiction and getting people internally strong enough to override these. And by the way, the more work I do in this, like, it's not just diet culture, it's like generational trauma of diet
Yes.
culture on, because you say to somebody, well, where did you learn that? And they'll say, well, my mother, blah, blah. And they'll say, where do you think I mean, the generational trauma
Yes.
of diet culture is, and so anyway, that's, so, I used to be about sugar. I wrote a book about sugar. I'm certainly about sugar. I haven't had sugar or flour for 13 years, but where I really am today is like helping people wake up to the true nature of themselves and understand, like, if you're going to buy diet culture, buy it with your eyes open. Buy it like you go into a casino knowing you're going to lose.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
but there's other ways that you can take back your power and heal your relationship with food. Like, I'd be thrilled if people just went through my program and never came back, and then I would just have to go find another job, and I just help every single person heal. So anyway, that's
Absolutely.
the shortest version of my story, I think. How'd I do? Too much time?
Wow. No, no, it's incredible. And there's so much packed in there. First of all, we have a lot in common.
Love
Um,
us. We're bathroom
my
besties, so
we
of course.
are, I know. My biological father died when I was 18 months old. He was electrocuted, actually,
Wow. I'm
and
so sorry.
he fell on more hot wires and then was completely cremated.
Oof.
My mom was 26 and I was the
Wow.
youngest of four. And so she was a widow at 26, the youngest of four, with four children.
Wow.
And she got remarried when I was three. So I had a father, he raised me for 47 years. When you talk about the generational trauma, it is so deep, deep, deep for everyone.
It's profound.
It really, really is. And whether
Well, and
it's,
especially for
yeah,
women, food and weight, like these lessons, I mean, and misogyny, I mean, if you want to just go there, like,
yeah,
incredible. Because I mean, I run these groups, and because sort of just starting to run some of this through a mechanism so I can start to really help heal. And it's like people don't, a belief is a repeated thought, right? And so in many ways, a belief is a choice.
yeah,
And this food, weight, worth, diet culture, scale, body, enoughness, have to wear heels, even though I have a bunion, like, it goes so deep. And
yeah,
it's like something happened on Noah's Ark. Like, it's so deep and profound how brainwashed we are.
yeah,
It's really going to be my next program, is just going to help people to get their brains washed in the right way. Because, and I think one of the ways, honestly, I don't know what you think about this, is like, I think we need to teach people the playbook that diet culture is using. Like, any diet you go to, like, they're literally all doing the same thing. And like, then we're like giving them our money thinking we're going to get something back. And there are all these really interesting, I'm a behaviorist by trade, I'm a licensed therapist, and like, there's this thing called learned helplessness, which
okay,
is where, when we fail at something so often,
right.
eventually by the end of it, we lose our, I mean, the studies, which were many years ago, are actually used with shocking dogs, using shock collars on dogs. And
Ooh,
eventually the dogs just basically play dead so that they don't get shocked, or they don't feel the shock anymore. And
mm,
actually that analogy plays pretty good with diet culture. Because the other thing that diet culture does is it does intermittent reinforcement, which is giving a random reward right when you think you might die so that you stay engaged. Just what cycle of abuse is about in abusive relationships. And understanding these two ideas has been really powerful for women that have been blessed to treat.
well, because here's the thing. I mean, I can just think of so many, celebrities primarily because they're the ones that are in the public eye, right? And you're seeing them and their weight goes up and then it goes down, it goes up. And it's just that yo-yo.
Yep.
Um, and why isn't anybody like in their world, which I don't understand because I'm not in that world and, quite frankly, really don't want to be
Yeah.
that, big, rich and famous. Just the rich, right? We all want to be rich. But
Rachel the famous. Yeah.
yeah. So like, why isn't anybody on their team saying, you got to get this right?
Oh,
Because
oh.
it's just oh my gosh, it's just no way to live, right?
Well, I think listen, I think with fame, there's such scarcity. I was just listening to a podcast with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, and someone
Ooh,
was asking them something, and they were like, you don't understand the nature of our business. It's like catch and kill, and you never know. I mean, talk about that kind of fame is literally scarcity and
oh,
scarcity
right.
business, right? And when you're in that kind of scarcity, your vision is like maybe a hallway, but certainly not 200 degrees around you. It's like and then those who are helping you are also in a scarcity mentality. Like there's nobody in that industry that's like, don't even worry about it. Universe got your back. We'll figure it out. Everyone's like, you need to spin your blood and take Ozempic because you don't know the net. And especially women, right? You're getting old. This is like all of it's so scarce. They
Right.
have us so hooked. All of us. I don't blame anybody. This diet culture is enormous. Great book to read if anybody wants to read a great book on sort of the inner workings of this thing. It's called Hooked by Michael
Hooked.
Moss. And
Hmm.
it really talks about big food. And big food's like only one part of this,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Only
Yeah.
one part of it. But Weight Watchers gets bought by Heinz or something, it's just what we're up against. So it's like we have that, and then it's not just our generation that has this up, we're up against this. Is like my mother's, I mean, the person I think impacted me the most in my belief about my body and my weight is actually my grandmother. So God only
Wow.
knows what her mother taught her. And I mean, this is like what we've learned. And so the unlearning, I think, is actually much more profound than even something like alcohol addiction, right? And that's
Yeah.
no easy, I'm in recovery a long time, but like that particular path was so much easier for me to untangle and heal from. It was a pretty straight shot, to unheal and untangle my eating, my disordered eating and my body image issues is like, it feels a little bit more lifelong than my more like these like substance addictions, because this particular issue, and I wouldn't even call it an addiction, it's just like this thing is just, and what I want to say, I think the healing is very, very possible. And I
Yeah.
think we can all take back our power. I mean, it's really why I'm treated in Intensati. I think that space that we get into that you're talking about, the Saturday is a perfect way to say it. We were like, I had no interest in even seeing your beautiful face, Molly. I was like, can you get off the stage? I'm tired. But then after 10 minutes, that was 13 minutes we did. And you're
Yeah.
like, just kidding. I'm great. I'm stronger than I think. I'm going to
Yeah.
rise today. Right? I love myself. And you know, the messages that we're given all day as women is not that. It's just
Yeah.
not. So we need to
Yeah.
be doing a little extra. We call it in behaviorism overcorrecting. We need to be overcorrecting towards our own power because most people don't want us having it.
So I couldn't agree with you more. But what do you think about is this issue something, because we know it's generational. Do you think it ends up being in our DNA?
Oh, it's not that I think that. That's
It
actually
is. It's
completely
proven.
proven. Yeah, there's a
Okay.
great podcast. Where does Huberman Labs just did the most interesting podcast on on generational trauma being embedded in DNA.
In
I
the
believe that
DNA.
actually. I actually believe that wholeheartedly. Also, personally, like my father's side has such
Mm-hmm.
deep and profound trauma. Like, there's just no way that a person should be as sensitive as I am. Like, it has to be living in my spirit. It just has to be. I mean, and I'm thrilled about it. You know what? I'm here to serve. And like my story just allows me to just really know that I'm here to just like help people break free like I have. So it's great. But yeah, that's actually an incredible podcast to listen to. And by the way, it's 2 hours, 30 minutes. You get the vibe. Time is our great commodity.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. We could talk for hours and hours and hours. And I like to keep my podcast between 20 to 30 minutes so
So do
that
I.
you're
Like, who
right.
has time? That's what I mean.
Nobody
Like
has
Huberman
time.
Labs, like 2 hours. I don't have 2 hours to listen to this.
I always just joke, well, if I was Joe Rogan, we could talk for 3 hours, but yeah.
Right.
So
Well, I love getting to know everybody here, and I love getting to talk to you, Sandy.
yeah, thank you. Likewise, Molly. So is there one thing that a person who's been going through this, diet culture and yo-yo dieting and things like that. Is there anything that somebody that you can, just some sort of golden nugget that they could maybe apply right away?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's,
Okay.
I'm going to tell you this. There's an internal wisdom that lives inside of every single one of us. And when the student is ready, the teacher arrives.
Yes.
And grace is the most incredible gift that we get. And so I want to say to whoever's listening, like, number one, turn on your brain. Like, you have to participate in not buying into any of this like nonsense anymore. Right. And that may be that you're at a body weight that you don't want to be at a little bit longer than you have to, whatever. But like, we know that when we're buying the nonsense, it's nonsense. So first thing is turn on your brain. The second thing I want to say is you never, ever, 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 ever stop trying. Because part of the healing is fighting for yourself and showing up for it. I have been doing this for 25 years, which frightens me. And the stories I can tell you about somebody getting it on the 12th time, somebody getting, like the process of the healing, it's a little Mr. Miyagi wax on, wax off, but like eventually you're going to find the thing, but you got to stop going to the abusers, come find the healers.
Right.
And its healing is completely possible for you. And when you heal generations before you and after you. So you're not just healing yourself.
That's right. That's absolutely. I love that. Oh my gosh. Now, where can people find you? I know you have your website, mollycarmel.com, and Instagram, Molly Carmel.
Yeah, I'm the easiest person to find. I'm also the easiest person to talk to.
I love
it. No, that's nice. I don't mean it in that way. Oh my God. No, I mean that too. But like, I love a direct message. Like, I'm always, my sister was like, why are you always talking to the people? I'm like, what else am I here to do? I'm also having, I do a retreat quarterly, and I'm doing a retreat on April 30th, all about forgiveness and acceptance. Cause I really do believe until we can like forgive and accept ourselves, like this battle is very uphill. And so we're going to be doing a lot of practices. I'm a trained therapist. So we're doing a lot of that. And like, I would love everyone to come join me at that. I'd love you to come join me at that.
I just may. Molly, this has been so amazing. Everybody check out her website and everything that she has to offer. And thank you again. This has been just so incredible. Thank you so much, Molly.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And thank you to the audience.